time to take a stand and stop the sexualization of our children. Action for Canada has created a notice of liability to assist you. The title of this NOL is Facilitating in Exposure of Minors to Sexually Explicit Educational Resources, Activities, and/or Events. The United Nations has mandated that all member nations implement the Comprehensive Sexuality Education Resource. CSE is a learning platform that was developed within the context of a program developed by UNESCO. This so-called resource sexualizes children at the earliest ages possible, and it's no surprise that it's causing great harm to our children, as well as attacking the traditional family unit. According to Section 163.1 and Section 152 of the Criminal Code, as well as the Canadian Centre for Child Protection, it's a criminal offence to sexualize and exploit children. Here at Action for Canada, we've been working to expose this evil agenda and to empower parents, grandparents, and concerned citizens to take a courageous stand. In an effort to assist you, we've created a page on our website where you will find an incredible assortment of information on this issue, including the various programs that have been introduced into our schools. Beyond the Basics is the resource used in Nova Scotia, WIN Sex Ed is used in Ontario, CSE is used in Manitoba, and SOGI 123 is used by the rest of the provinces. By introducing these programs into our educational system, our children and youth are being exposed to sexually explicit pornographic materials in the form of books, magazines, and comic strips. Our kids are also encouraged to become members of organizations that promote sexually deviant behavior and the exploitation of minors. Be sure to take advantage of this notice of liability, which will advise teachers, librarians, trustees, ministers, etc., that they will be held personally liable for exposing minors to any form of pornography or sexually explicit material, as well as any activities or organizations promoting sexual deviancy and the exploitation of minors. By using this valuable NOL, you have the ability to demand that the CSE learning resources be immediately and completely removed from libraries and the education system. That all of the books listed, including titles by the same authors, be immediately removed, and that all educational facilities, including libraries, cease and desist promotion of any and all activities, including performers and clubs that exploit our innocent, impressionable, and vulnerable children and youth. Knowing is not enough. You must take action. Here are some powerful actions you can take to protect our youth, no matter your age or station in life. Pull your children out of public schools and universities. Run, facilitate, join, or help with a homeschool group. Get involved in writing letters and serving notices of liability. Run for office as a school board trustee, mayor, or city councillor. Connect with an Action for Canada chapter near you. We cannot ignore this message. Our children and youth are being subjected to twisted ideologies using social justice as a means to indoctrinate and groom them, and we must protect them. Thank you for taking a stand to protect kids. If you like what we're doing at Action for Canada, please consider making a donation to support our ongoing work. And be sure to join a chapter near you. God bless you, and God bless Canada. Hello, Action for Canada friends. We're so glad you've joined us after a week off. A warm welcome to you. We're so grateful to have you as a part of our community. Doris Livingstone will be hosting tonight's show, and our guest speakers are Duane and Jilene. The title of tonight's show is Homeschooling, the Best and Safest Choice. It's Wednesday, August 12th, 2026, and this is the Empower Hour. Action for Canada is a national movement reaching out to millions of Canadians and uniting our voices in opposition to the destructive policies tearing at the fabric of our nation. Through call to action campaigns, we educate, equip, mobilize, and empower citizens to take action. We are committed to protecting faith, family, and freedom. Here we are in the second week of August already, and a new school season will be starting in just a few short weeks. We'd like to invite you to take a look at our Homeschool Revolution page, where we provide help for those of you who are thinking of homeschooling your children this coming September, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran. Our goal is to assist and support parents, grandparents, and guardians with powerful resources and solutions to counter the assault against our children that is being committed by the government and education systems. We also provide support and resources for those of you who will be keeping your children in the school system. Be sure to head over to the Action for Canada website to take a look at the many resources available to you. I'm so pleased to introduce you to tonight's host, Doris Livingstone. Doris is Action for Canada's homeschool lead and a veteran homeschooling mom who began her homeschooling journey in 1995, shortly after moving to Ucluelet, BC, with her husband and 3 preschool children. After her husband passed away while the children were still teenagers, Doris continued to homeschool as a single parent until graduation. And now she's a passionate advocate of homeschooling, promoting it as an adventurous, exciting family life that is truly rewarding for everyone. Before Doris comes on, I'd like to introduce tonight's guests. I'm so pleased to introduce tonight's special guest speakers. For the past 12 years, while operating a successful home business, Duane and Jilene Hay have faithfully homeschooled their 4 children and will continue to do so until graduation. Tonight, they're joining us to discuss why they decided to homeschool, some of the challenges they've had to deal with, the many blessings they've experienced, and how homeschooling enables parents to tailor each child's education to their unique learning style, cultivate strong character, develop a biblical worldview, a healthy work ethic, critical thinking skills, meaningful friendships, and close family relationships. Will you please help me welcome Doris? Oh, and Duane and Jilene. Hey, thank you. Hello, and welcome to the Empower Hour.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you very much. And welcome, Duane and Jilene Hay.
Thank you.
And return of Jilene, I had you once on our webinars on a panel of homeschooling moms. And so it's great to have you both here today. Tell us a little bit about how you got started in homeschooling, and how many years ago that would have been, and how old might have your kids been, and really what prompted you at the time to get started. A lot of people want to know how people get started, so let's hear from what you have to say.
So we started right from kindergarten with our oldest, Avon, who will be graduating this year. So we have our first grad coming up. And I think there was a lot of, I definitely didn't come from a homeschooling background. I was definitely of the camp where I thought homeschooled kids were weirdos, as a lot of them think, right? But there was a couple things that kind of happened all at the same time when we had our first daughter and we were kind of approaching school age. And Duane was on the worship team at the church that we were at back in Red Deer. So we lived in Alberta at the time. And there was one of the girls on the worship team who was homeschooled. And we're like, hey, she's actually like really cool. She's actually very talented and she's doing amazing things at 16 years old that, when most kids that age don't look an adult in the eye, she's having these powerful conversations with adults. And we thought, okay, well, this is different. Not all homeschool kids are weird. And so that was kind of like the first little like nudge, the little seed planting, if you will. And then I remember like we were in a small group with within our church, and one of the moms there who, she had kids older than our kids, and she was just kind of talking about the lifestyle that they had. And it was, rush to get the kids up in the morning, rush to get them to school, pack all the lunches, then they get home from school and it's homework and activities and then bed and then do it all again. And I just thought like, well, when do you actually get to spend time with your kids? When do you get to actually be together? Because the thought of just like sending my kids away for somebody else to do the majority of the raising just didn't really sit well with me. So I think those were kind of the first little pieces that really kind of opened up the door of the possibility of homeschooling.
Yeah, and I think I had a friend who recommended I listen to a Vodi Bakum talk on homeschooling. So if you've never heard Vodi talk about homeschooling and you're a Christian, go listen to his reasoning behind why you should consider homeschooling your family. Just a really encouraging look at how God places the responsibility of the parents for the education of their children. He places that on us, and so that's not saying that you can't fulfill your role to be responsible for your kids' education outside of homeschooling, but that homeschooling is maybe a better way to kind of honor God in that responsibility He's put on us to be the mentors and leaders and trainers and even spiritual guides for our kids. So that Vodi talk was really awesome too.
Convicting. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think he
sure.
says in there, like, if you send your kids to Caesar, then why would you expect them to come home as anything other than Romans, right?
Mm.
So that was powerful, right? If we're wanting to raise godly Christian children for the kingdom of God, for his glory, then I think we need to be the biggest influence into their lives. And homeschooling definitely opens that door to have that, greatest chance to be effective in that mission.
I agree. And I noticed Kim put it in the chat, the spelling for Vodi. So if you wanted
Oh,
to know
thank you.
more, yeah, then you guys can look it up there. So when you started, most parents start with enthusiasm. They go to Walmart and they're buying new pencil crayons as everybody does it in the school season. And then, you start going, I don't know if I'm cut out for this, but you're going to courageously go. And at what point did you realize the struggle started happening and you're going either in the mind about, oh man, you're second guessing yourself, or is it like, no, we're doing this, but yet you're having either behavioral issues like with a child on a day or a pattern you see, or I don't know, just the house is falling apart. Like, what were some of the earliest challenges? And in hindsight now, you look at going, I'm glad we overcame some of those, or we should have done a better job in, maybe one area where it's still showing up, those kind of little things.
Yes, I mean, picking curriculum is always a overwhelming. It's overwhelming because there's so many options out there, and each kid is so different, and their learning styles are so different. So it definitely can be overwhelming. And
But it's a good problem. Like the homeschooling world is so heavily resourced with so many options.
Mhm.
It's limitless. But when you're just entering in, it's a little daunting
Yeah.
to choose which path you're going to take.
I think also for us, we didn't have anybody really in our circle that was homeschooling. We didn't have we kind of didn't really have a lot of friends with kids, first of all, and not really any of them that were homeschooling. And then when we actually started, I'm pretty sure we started kindergarten in BC. So we had to move in there too. So we were kind of starting completely fresh. And one of the things that I did right away was try to plug into community in whatever way that I can and find the people that had kind of come before me because there's so much to learn from asking questions of others who have gone before you. You can learn about what's worked for them, what didn't work, be encouraged when you're having doubts, right? Because of course those doubts will come in and make you question everything that you're doing. And so definitely finding that community. And I think 12 years ago when we were getting started, 12, 13 years ago, it definitely was a bit more challenging to find that community for us, especially in a new town. But yeah, it's definitely one of the biggest blessings that we have found over the years too, is finding that mentorship and Yeah.
And it's great to see Action for Canada is kind of bridging the gap there and helping people find what's in their community that they can get connected to. One, I think, early hurdle for me was this idea that homeschooling is supposed to look exactly like traditional school, just at your home. And so the way we, you know, put the child at the table, the way we taught, sort of the way we would structure the time that we would focus on the subject, kind of the level of sit still and pay attention that you're looking for from the kid. Those kinds of things didn't really happen super easily with our first child. And it was really encouraging to have someone go, like, don't try to recreate a classroom environment when you're homeschooling. Like, you're homeschooling. So it can be whatever you want, and you can tailor it to the child. And especially between kindergarten and grade 3, like, the world's your oyster. You can teach math while you're going to the grocery store and running your daily errands, and you don't need 6 hours a day to teach your kid, for the first few years of homeschooling. It's very much just do life together, go have experiences. And once we kind of allowed that freedom to come in, and that freedom to, hey, if you pick a curriculum and it's really not clicking and it's just a battle for you, they're not having fun, there's 1,000 other options out there. Go try something different or ask around, see what's worked for other people. So, like, yeah, year to year, subject to subject, child to child, you have that customizability that you should take advantage of, and not feel like you're stuck in a box where you're standing up at the whiteboard and writing stuff down and they should be sitting quietly in their chair paying attention. Um,
I totally relate to that. And I would, especially after lunch, when the afternoon slump starts and kicks in, and most adults need their coffee, and the kids kind of like start checking out too. And I would look at my kids and there's this glaze, and I'm going, they're done.
Mhm.
So, yeah, Duane, you are right. When they're very young, you can be done everything by noon.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, the attention span is very short the younger they are, and depending on what it is, of course. Um, one of the phrases that was really big when I was homeschooling was delight directed studies, and what delights the heart is areas worth studying. So my oldest, for example, loved horses. My middle one was all about videos and cameras and pictures, and my youngest was all about music. And so I'll just go back to horses, for example. She was about grade 7, and I could tailor her writing assignment around some research she did on horses. She could cover science. She started breeding miniature hamsters, and so she started learning gene coding. And if you have this gene and this gene from this kind of hamsters, you can create these hamsters. And then she started a little business and started selling these little mini hamsters in our little town at the time. And but it's what delighted her, and it motivated her to learn. And so she's reading, she's writing, you're covering your science, some of it covered some math. And I've really loved watching their light come on in their mind when you finally found the thing that they love. Now, for other kids, it could be mechanics, it could be sports or hockey, or it could be cooking, something that just ignites them. And well, that's what I loved about tailoring their education is um, finding something that just struck the heart. Sure, tell us a little bit about what you've noticed in your own kids. You have 4 kids, and I'm sure they're each uniquely different. And how do you do that with your kids?
Yeah, it's a little bit different with each one. It's, I think with our youngest, we're noticing out of all the kids, he's probably the one who's kind of gravitated towards like the science stuff, and he's our big reader, I would say, out of everybody, where just reading is sort of his default. And he, even from probably age 5 or 6, he fell in love with a science book that was like an encyclopedia of the human body with like detailed layer by layer, kind of like the circulatory system, the muscular system, the skeletal system, the digestive system. So he's just flipping through the pages and he's like, I love my body book, and like I'm gonna go read my body book and couldn't get enough of it. And so it was interesting to find ways to just encourage him down the path of human anatomy, and who knows where that might take him. Um, whereas I would say our second youngest, she is probably more of our artistic one. So she's really into coloring, drawing, making crafts, even like rainbow loom, and she's getting into knitting and things like that. And so seeing that develop to the point where she's like, oh, getting into making blankets and things. And so and then the older two, it just gives them the freedom to like, hey, if you're interested in like small engines, grandpa's going to show you how to change the oil on the quad today, kind of thing. And they could do that together. Or like wants to go out hunting, let's grab the pellet gun and see what you can find in the bush, kind of thing. And yeah, I don't know. What
Yeah.
would you say?
Well, I would say everything is a learning opportunity. And you're right, when you can find and cater what you're doing and what they're passionate about, that for sure makes life a whole lot easier. And for our third, she's had a real struggle with learning to read and enjoying it. And it's just like we butt heads all the time. It's been very challenging. And then this year we discovered a writing program that did just what you're talking about, where it gets them to be super creative and to be able to just get it really lit up that creative spark in her. And all of a sudden she really likes writing. And she struggled with reading, but now we'll have an audiobook playing for her while she's knitting. So she gets that opportunity to be creative and working with her hands, which does well for her, but she's still taking in a story, which my preference is still always for like an actual book as opposed to anything audio or video, but it is definitely a good support, especially for those kids that you have that may be struggling with it. And for her, we found even just like reading along with an audiobook has just brought her so much further ahead with her reading, and spelling and everything improves once they're starting to just see more of that. But I think in a lot of it, when you're having kind of some of those struggles, it's like give them time and like they'll catch up, and just keep supporting them and seeking those ways that work for that particular child. Because they unfortunately, I've always said it would be so great if you had a baby and it was like baby, placenta, and then a manual for your specific child, but that's just not really the way that it works. So it's kind of like we have to, it's a lot of trial and error, right? And really, I think, working with your individual child and their needs and what they love.
Yeah, I know you talked about curriculum earlier, and it can be overwhelming. And at the end, folks, I'm going to put out a link to our website so that you can click on for information. And curriculum seems to be very core in the summer as we prepare August, September, and as we want to be ready for September. And if it feels overwhelming, there are people with a lot of experience who sell the curriculum, and you can talk to them. And even better yet, in the new year and into the spring is when each province runs their homeschool conventions. And so with your experience, Jilene, you typically go to these conventions. What is your takeaway about how to sort of sift through curriculum or learning resources, like all of it?
Yes. Okay. So first off, I want to talk about the conventions because I think that those are really important, and to just address the fact that by the time these conventions come up, it's usually like April, May is kind of when they seem to all pop up. At that point in the year, we've just come through winter. We're all a little done homeschooling. And I promise you, like every single year, I've been like, what am I doing? Am I doing the right thing? Why am I here? Like, have I made a crucial mistake? And then you go to these conferences and you're reminded, this is why you chose to homeschool. This is what the work that you're doing is leading to, right? And so for me, it's just like that soul-filling reminder that I'm like, okay, stick with it. There's a reason for it. But yes, at these conventions, oftentimes there's just so much to sift through. And so I still feel like in a lot of ways, like now I feel like already 4 years, like 4 kids later, and in our oldest in grade 12, we're kind of just really starting to find some resources that we really, really love. And so we've had a lot of trial and error, and these conventions can absolutely be so overwhelming. So to be able to kind of have some tools and resources to be able to understand what your kids are needing. And actually, here's kind of an interesting thing that I did. Some people work really, really well if they have a support teacher. That can be really beneficial if you're working with a support
And
teacher.
they can help pick
They can
curriculum.
help pick curriculum and make recommendations for you. But I actually had kind of a weird techie experience. Now, this is going to be weird for homeschoolers, I'm sure, but we live in a world now where there is technology out there that can really help us narrow things down. So I actually did a couple of tests with one of my kids because she has some learning challenges and just a really unique brain. And for me, that was the hardest part. I'm like, what do I do with this super unique brain? How do I get her to engage in learning? What's going to work well for her? Because I don't want to spend money on all these resources that I don't use, right? And so I actually put these tests through ChatGPT, and I was like, hey, what would you do with this brain? These are the likes, these are the interests, these are like, how do I work? Help me sort through some curriculum. And it actually popped up some really great resources, and just kind of, I can fine tune it again to be able to narrow down things that really work. But I used that as a resource this year, and I found it very beneficial because I found a math program that I had never heard of before that really does seem to suit her specific brain. And so, yeah, there's so many opportunities and resources and ways of narrowing down what really works for your specific child. So I find when going into these conferences to have a list of what it is that you're looking for, because you can save a lot of money at them with like shipping. And if you go to the Alberta conference, which I usually do, then you're not paying the PST. And actually, I think sometimes it's not included on books. But anyways, yeah, it's just it can be overwhelming. So going in with a list and being prepared is helpful. Yeah.
I would agree with all of that. I would go to a convention, actually very excited. I'd go with some friends of mine, girlfriends who homeschooled and in BC, and we'd go and have a weekend there. And I'd come out recharged going, I know why I'm doing this. One of the things I would encourage anybody starting, and even those who were in it, and particularly those even who've perhaps pulled their child out from a school system, whether it's public or private, and you're in that first and second year, and you're wondering, like, I don't know about this, and you're feeling discouraged, just write down your reasons why you started, and maybe have a sticky note either on your fridge or on your mirror, and look at that often, because sometimes you just need a little reminders, like, this is why we're doing what we're doing. And then get yourself to a convention, surround yourself with like-minded people. And again, at the link at the end, I'll show you how to find your provincial support groups. And we got them, like we have chapters with Action for Canada, we have regional support groups and homeschool communities for kids and for parents who connect. And you can find new friend groups, you can find like-minded people. Surround yourself so that you can have conversations and share ideas on how to do certain either subjects or certain discipline issues that perhaps that might be happening in the home, and how do you overcome things, and just, yeah, have your people around you. That I think is really, really important, to sort of go on day after day, year after year, and then you look back and going, wow, I did another year and it really wasn't so bad, you know. I'd like to switch a little bit over to laying the foundation in the home for success, discipline in the home. And what I mean by that is the disciplines of the home, the routines. So for example, one of the routines I established in the morning was the dishwasher had to be emptied, breakfast had to be, we had to finish eating it, everybody at once. We had to clean up the dishes. The beds had to be made. If there was any sort of business call that had to happen that day, because we had home businesses as well, I tried to do them either before 9 or after 3, if possible. This is before cell phones, so nowadays you can text. what kind of establishments do you have in your home to sort of set the tone for the day? How do you make your breaks? How do you resume school after lunch? Sort of what's important?
We're probably a little more loose than what you made it sound like your family does. And I think that's going to be a little different for every family. What one thing I like about what you said is that when you're using the same place that you live and you eat and you sleep and you relax and your schooling is all happening in the same place, having some semblance of organization, cleanup, everybody work together to kind of take care of the space and set it up so that you can have some focus time for learning goes a really long way, as opposed to try to bring your learning on top of, TVs running in the background, dishes are piled up in the sink. It just makes it tougher to focus. And so I would say, like, our kids are really good at dishes by this point, and that has been a real big thing that we can lean on them for. And it's not always done with joy and glee, but we set the tone for this is a responsibility of a member of this family to help care for the space. At this point, like, everybody can cook their own food and stuff. So, like our youngest, when he was probably 6 years old, he could fry an egg and make some toast and get his breakfast going, kind of thing. So, having everybody, I would say, up and out of bed and getting ready for the day, getting breakfast done so that at least by say 9:30, we're getting schooling started, and then probably go for a couple hours, and we call it a brain break that will come at times where they'll just be like, Mom, I need to take a break, because that frustration can pile up a little bit sometimes. And so little brain breaks, so you might have like a mini recess even before lunch and then come back and complete. So we almost do it, I would say, by subjects, like subject one, brain break, subject two, break, and then lunch break, we'll say.
I would also say our days that go the best are the days that we start with Bible study. I think that those are our best days because it just kind of sets the tone. We have a moment of like, I think just
Family
that
worship.
family worship. It's I don't know. It just sets the whole tone for the best day, I think. So the days that we do that seem to be the best days. And then oftentimes what we'll do for breaks is because I can't be with everybody all at once. And there have been times where we've done curriculum where it's like we're all learning together, and that works really well. And I love those types of curriculums. But sometimes that's not what we're doing, and it is more individualized. So I will have one person working on something independently, and then I'm working with another one-on-one, because some kids just need more guidance, I guess, and that interaction with mom. As they get older, they tend to get a bit more independent with these types of things. So that, like, our oldest is super independent. So she can just we can trust her to just get it all done. And she's very disciplined with her studies. Our two middles would be less that.
More hand holding there. Yeah.
Holding with them. So it depends. But so I'll just have them doing different things. But we definitely have a rule, like there's no screens other than if they're using a screen for a learning experience, but there's no screens in the mornings ever, because their brains just turn to mush if that door even opens. And so, just kind of and then, they get to play when this work is done, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I just found that so I like order in that I need to know where my stuff is. So like the scissor goes back in the drawer where the scissor goes. You know, certain things are just predictable. You can find them. And I found that if I had every room was a mess, I couldn't start school until something was resolved. And one of the tips that I was told at a convention was try to keep one room in the house that's not full of toys and full of clutter. And so you're not stepping on everything, especially when you've got very young kids. They tend to just pick up a toy and drop it as they walk around the house, taking everything apart, right? And that would be hard if you've got, let's say you're starting homeschooling and you've got a 5 or 6 year old and you're getting started and you've got a 2 or 3 year old dropping toys and you've got a nursing baby and you're exhausted and sleepy. But even those tiny little disciplines of just even creating one space. For some people, it's the kitchen, and not that
Yeah.
everything has to be immaculate, but I don't know. It's one of those little things. If it helps that person, if they're that kind of person and they're wired like that, then that I would set that tone. And like you said, Jillian, no screen time in the morning. That's something I would have done too. Yeah.
The amount of time and frustration you can save by not having to look for a pencil or not having to look for your math book or not having to find
Yeah.
that textbook that you need to start the day. Like that can waste 15, 20 minutes of like whining and belly aching and foot dragging when it's just easy. And so maybe it could be on us parents to make sure everything's put away at the end of the day. And then once breakfast is done and the cleanup's happening, you could go then bring out the stuff and set each person's station up and go, there's your books. Let's get going. And
Yeah.
They can do it themselves.
they can do it themselves. And
Yeah.
you can have a coffee while they get their stuff.
Yes. Like I think one of the biggest things is like I don't want to raise kids that need me to do the things for them, right? Like I want to raise independent adults and good humans. And so as much as we can encourage them to be responsible, that's huge. Like I'm saying, I see people making comments about making your bed. Absolutely. That's such a great, like basic expectation. Like make your bed, brush your teeth, clean up your dishes, yes. It definitely does. When the house isn't chaotic and cluttered, it definitely makes for more clarity for the day, for sure.
Yeah. And it's interesting because we don't consider that homeschooling because it's not directly like the school book and the reading and the math and all that, but it's the whole child. And that's the beautiful thing about home education is that you're developing and influencing, you're the primary overseer of molding this child and raising them and protecting their mind and guarding them and yet freeing them. And like it's just beautiful to watch how children grow and develop. And the other thing too is a lot of times we think, oh my goodness, my child's not reading and they're in grade 2. And I'm thinking, well, you know what? Children read from, I think, was age 4 to age 9 before they actually kind of flourish. So what if they're 7 and they're 8 and they're 9? You know what? If they're home and it's a safe place, they're going to read. They will read. And you know what? If they were behind in a subject in grade 8, you have grade 9 to catch up. It's okay because you've got 13 years to get it all done. And if they're really motivated, they can even be done a year early. 2 of my kids were done a year early. And then they have a gap year to do other things, and which we'll get into shortly here as well. How can dads be involved? Duane, if you want to speak into that, how do you find your role in your homeschool?
Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind is that it's a heavy burden to be the parent who initiates and sits with and walks through the step by step of doing going through the resource that you're doing with each child each day, which most of the time is Jilene. And there are times where she just gets burnt out. Like there could be pushback from the kids, like they don't want to do it today, or they're struggling with something in math, or, oh, do I have to do 7 pages? I always only do 4 pages. Why do I have to do 7? And so you can see why God made it such that you need that it's ideal to have a wife and a husband, a mother and a father, because there are times where you need that backup voice. You need that kind of voice of authority where I think God has gifted dads with just sort of an authoritative role where when we step in and say like, if your mom says you're doing 7 pages, it's 7 pages. So quit your belly aching and let's get to it. Sometimes like that's my role, is to just come in and support and keep them focused, keep the wheels moving, keep us going forward. And then there can be times where there's just like, because of that sort of reluctance to actually do the work, there can be behavior stuff that crops up, and they're just so almost looking for like a negative attention outlet where they'll try to push mom's buttons because anything but doing school, even if that means getting in a fight with mom. And so it can be really helpful to have dad there to say, like, that's my wife. Don't talk to her like that. Get back to work, kind of thing. So it can be helpful to have that second voice there, um, to be the disciplinarian and to keep things focused. And then even just to like, I always really loved learning and thought I would teach, kind of thing. And I've done different, like I was a lifeguard and swim instructor for a while. I was a flight instructor and taught meteorology and flying lessons. And so I've taught different things along the way. So I enjoy taking things that I know and sharing them with other people and seeing them get it. And so it's fun sometimes to go, okay, you sit with him while he does his language arts, and I'll sit with her while she does her math, and spend half an hour kind of dividing and conquering like that. Um, yeah,
I
those are
think
the first things I can think of.
I think also he makes it sound like he's a major disciplinarian, which Doris, I'm sure you can imagine, he's actually super fun too. So he also gets to be fun dad. So he's not just like coming in with an iron rod. He's the fun dad, and he teaches them a lot of life skills as well. And so whether that's like getting out there with the boys, especially like, okay, today we're going to learn how to mow the lawn, or we're going to learn how to do this or that, or we're going to go for a hike, or, you know, those kinds of adventure type of stuff too. I think he's really great for that type of stuff, or taking them up snowshoeing or whatever, those kinds of things. And then also I love it. I really love it when Duane leads like the Bible study in the morning. I feel like the kids just take so much, they listen so much better, and it's just different when dad is speaking, right? And so yeah, it's definitely a partnership. And there's sometimes where I'm kind of like, you know what, I'll take the curriculum, because I'm in a process of like working through this, and I know where we're at, and you might not know how to quite teach it as well. So I prefer sometimes if he does some of that other stuff, but yeah. Anyways, yeah, it's good to have that balance to bounce off of each other where we need them. And yeah,
Yeah.
And there
Or
is
if
so much
days
other stuff.
there is. And if there's days where I'm away too, like he will be able to step in, because we also have a business as well. And sometimes it requires some travel, or I need to be away for certain periods. So he's great to step in and make sure everything gets done too. So
Yeah. When we lived in our little tourist town, come spring, you know, motivation for school starts waning. And that was predictable. And I got into a cycle by spring. By April, end of April, we were done school by noon on many days because tourism started. And my kids, because they were already freed up and available, picked up the jobs after lunch. And they'd work 1 day, 2 days a week at an after school, but it'd be after 12 type of a job. And so, you know, they're starting to branch out into the next thing of learning how to own a job and how to be responsible and be on time. And so all those things we're teaching them when they're young start to really become important as they become young adults and move into the adulting years.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Did you want to speak to
Eh,
that?
Well, it just reminded me of some of the young men I know who are tradesmen, and you know they're say in their early 30s, and they're a tile guy, or they're a plumber or an electrician or something like that, and they started apprenticing when they were 15, 16 because they could get their schooling done in the morning and then go to work with dad, or go to work with uncle or grandpa, or you know, find someone who would take them under their wing. So if there is like you know, sort of a skill that a boy or girl is interested in, they can look for a pathway to really dive into that. A lot of the first homeschoolers that really piqued my interest were all musicians, and these were ones who fell in love with their instrument in, you know, their early teens. And so by the time they were 18, they already had 10,000 hours on the violin or the keyboard or vocalist or guitar player kind of thing. And we're just like well-rounded, intelligent kids who could carry on a great conversation with any adult in any situation. And even though they were just, you know, 17, 18, 19 or whatever, it kind of had that maturity of most 25-year-olds kind of thing. And I'm like, if this is what homeschooling kids can do and can put their time in instead of wasting 8 hours a day in a classroom, and hanging out with everyone who's exactly the same age as them, and just do the bare minimum until you graduate. That really piqued my interest on, yeah, what you might be able to do as a homeschooler.
Yeah. Yeah. Like going back to the things that delighted their hearts when they were young is still interestingly the same thing that delights them now, and they're in their 30s.
Right.
And like, so my middle child was into, photography and videos and pictures. And if I lost something, she always knew where it was, because it's like she knew where everything was in the house. And today, well, let's go back. During her high school years, I had asked one of our local photographers to mentor her, take her in once a week, show her something, or take her along to a photo shoot. She did weddings on the coast at the time. And so my daughter would just tag along and learn. And today, she's gone back to her first love. Now she's a photographer. So it's you got to pay attention to those little things that just excites them. And I love watching that flourish in a child. And they may have 2 or 3 things that they're really loving. And so just sort of opening up the doors and the opportunities and the people in their life that can build that, whether, like you said, a grandpa or an uncle, taking them along to a work site, or building something in the shed together. Such great opportunities of learning and building relationships at the same time.
And one of the things that I would say too is that where homeschooling really shines is that I don't think that our kids need to be jack of all trades. Like, they don't have to be mediocre at everything, or they don't have to be good at everything. But if they are really good at this one particular area, like, let's kind of direct them that way and get them into a mentorship, or get them trying out practical skills with this specific talent that they have. And that's the beauty of homeschooling. You don't have to be like, by the time that they graduate, they can be, if the kid is excited about something and where they're going, they could be already like launched into a business, right? Like our son, who's going into grade 10 right now, he's not my academic kid. My first one is like, I'm dogwood all the way. I want to go to university or college or do something like that after. But our son, I'm like, I don't think that's his path, right? So I would love to just kind of cater more to like, he's probably going to be our business guy. So let's focus on like, what does it take to run a business? What does it take what are you interested in? Let's start developing these types of things, right? And so to be able to have that flexibility to really hone in on those skills and who they are going to be, because I don't want my kids to like how many kids go through university and at the end of 4 or 8 years, they still don't know what they're going to do, right? And not to get into like all of how terrible universities are and stuff, because that's a whole other topic. But yeah, we have a lot more opportunity for them. But yeah, that's a benefit of homeschooling.
Absolutely. As you're preparing your oldest for post-secondary, it sounds like, I've got a few ideas of how people can enter universities, colleges. What kind of things can parents do in the senior high years to prepare them for that next level as a homeschool child? How do they get into those places?
Well, she's doing a dogwood, so getting in, I think, for her won't be an issue. And even if you did a traditional homeschooling and you didn't do the like BC, and she's done it through HCOS, and she's done like more of a Christian route, which was super important to us. Like the whole secular public education system was never on the table. So that won't be an issue. My concern with going into that path is she ready for that? Is she equipped to be able to handle what the world is going to throw at her? And so focusing on her heart, where she is with the Lord and her walk with the Lord, I think is the most important thing we can do with our kids and for our kids, to equip them we want them to step out as independent adults. We want them to walk into these situations and be able to stand firm with who they are in Christ, right? And so for us, my heart for her, and she is like probably the most, if you think I am a strong, independent woman, oh my goodness, I am raising one as well. So we kind of do not necessarily see eye to eye on how this works, but my heart for her would be to take some time in she loves to travel. So I'm like, well, you want to travel, let's do a overseas Bible program for a year where you can really come to terms with faith on your own. This is your first stepping out experience out from under our wing, but like have her grow her faith before she enters any kind of an institution of, hopefully would have a Christian worldview to it, because there's some scary ones. So there's a lot of conversations. There's a lot of prayer that goes into this. But ultimately one day we're just going to have to like, okay, God, like we've done all that we can. I pray that you just, take our child and raise them up to be the adult that you've intended them to be, right? So
But if you're asking like how do you plan on doing post-secondary education if you're homeschooling, how does one make that happen? Like you were explaining, there is the satisfy the requirements of the curriculum and get enough credits, get a high school diploma. That's your kind of entrance into the post-secondary education. So you can do that through homeschooling. That's really easy to do. We have found our local homeschooling organization, Heritage Christian Online Schools, is a very large organization in BC, and there should be something like that in each province where they can help advise you that path. Then if you decided to be outside of that curriculum and you're kind of going your own path, and you have, an 18-year-old student who's been homeschooled to grade 12, but you don't have like a transcript or a traditional diploma to apply to those schools with. What we've been encouraged with by a lot of other homeschooling families is that there's great post-secondary institutions who love homeschooling kids and love their independent minds, and they want to help you find a pathway to get into their school. So talk to that school, and there's often like, take a semester where you just complete this math course, this science course, this language arts course, and now you've got your boxes checked, so you can kind of enter into your first year of your university program. So there is that kind of a plan where even, me, when I went into post-secondary, I still needed to kind of, I need to up my math to this, and I need to up my science to this in order to enter into the program that I was taking. So that's happening even with a lot of students who do have a diploma. You still need to do that touch-up semester in your college or university. So I think using that same method, even without a diploma, is possible.
Yeah, it is actually possible, because 2 of my 3 kids graduated without the
dogwood.
provincial, diploma. And so, but they were granted a homeschool equivalency certificate, and by the school that they were registered through. Now, this is in BC. Each province is a little bit different on what's required and what sort of ways to graduate there are, but other ways can be creating a portfolio of all the things you've sort of covered and learned from grade 10, 11, 12. Some provinces, it might just be grade 11, 12. Some are grade 10, 11, 12. And then what my oldest did to get herself, this was about 2 years after high school, she wanted to go to the local university, and she wrote them a letter because she was missing, I think, 1 course or something to get in. So she wrote a letter convincing them why they needed her, and it worked.
Awesome.
And they let her in. Yeah. So you got to think outside of the box, and homeschooling is like that already. You gather all your tools, you ask a lot of questions, you inquire, like, let's say they want to go to university in, I don't know, New Brunswick or Ontario or something like that. What are the requirements over there? And like you said, Duane, many schools actually allot a percentage of space to allow homeschoolers into their schools, because they know they are self-directed learners. They have proven that they are passing and graduating at high level scores, and they're great students. And so the path has been laid, and it's just a matter of asking a lot of questions. And at the end, again, I'll show you our link to those who are watching right now as to how to find your provincial support your provincial group, the foundation of your province, and from there they have all the information on whether you're looking for curriculum or how to graduate your child or how to get him into post-secondary education. Another way is to start at a college level and then do 2 years of college and then transfer all that into a university. Oftentimes people go to university, these kids, and they're overwhelmed because it's another world and they're like, this isn't what I want to do at all. And so I spent way more money at that level instead of just starting at a college level and then moving in a direction, because oftentimes you shift your path or your major a little bit this way, or you're going, no, that's it. This is so not my thing. I know I've experienced that twice in my secondary journey, and it's all part of the learning curve. And so as parents, it is we can help our kids a lot by guiding them in those senior years there. I want to talk real quick about single parenting before we wrap up. Many of you know my story. My husband was killed in a tragic accident when my kids were in junior high. And so I was left trying to figure out how to homeschool my kids. And we had desired in the earliest years that they would graduate from homeschooling. And so that was something that I was very passionate about. And we did successfully graduate them all through home education. But part of what motivated me was I had that underlying path and desire and knowledge to finish this journey we were on, because I, to the core, believed in my path. And I had a network in place. We didn't move. We just stayed where we lived because the network of other homeschooling families was already around us. And I called on many people to sort of help with some of the load and share the load of whether it was the extracurricular stuff, or it was the after school activities or sports or whatever. So a lot of parents came and helped me. But I think having that network as a single parent, whether it's through divorce, a death, or if you're in that limbo stage, you're going through a journey and you are left with the children and nothing's resolved in your life yet, but you still believe in homeschooling. Have you heard of any successes in your current network of people where you're seeing people thrive as single parents?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're a part of a co-op. We're actually part of 2 co-ops this year, and one is new and one we've done for a couple of years. And within that one that we've done for a couple of years, this last year, 2 of our grads from that program were raised by single moms. And so I think, like you said, Doris, having that community is so important, because you're not meant to be an island on this journey. Our kids thrive in community, and I thrive in community. So being in a parent-led co-op for me and our kids was extremely beneficial, because you're just kind of you're spreading out that load. And especially as a single parent, being able to have other moms come along beside you and just like, hey, I need help today, will you help me out? And I think that we have an opportunity to serve one another and love one another and help raise up our kids. And not just, I think so many people kind of, when they start out on this journey, they picture homeschooling or home education as just this lonely thing or this isolated thing. And will my kids lack socialization? And it can be like that, but it doesn't have to be. That's a choice, right? And sometimes it takes a lot more effort to find these types of communities. And if there isn't one around you, then start one, because I promise there's other families that are not liking what they're seeing happening in the system, who desire to have their kids home, but aren't sure how to do it. And to be able to spread it out, I don't teach my kids science, because we do that at a co-op, right? So I don't feel like I have to do everything all on my own, right? To be able to kind of spread that out is huge, and it just takes that weight right off. And yeah, so we've seen a lot of single moms, and it's it's a beautiful thing to be able to help support those moms in raising up these kids. And we do a lot of extracurricular things together as well, with whether it's a beach day or a field trip or whatever. Camping, we do a camping trip every year. So these are kinds of things that are so good for the kids. They're so good for the families. And yeah, I just want to encourage anyone who is a single parent looking to homeschool your kids. It is absolutely possible. And I just encourage you, yeah, reach out, find the resources, find the people, and find your community.
Yeah, because there's also that pressure of they have to work. And so again, thinking outside of the box is, do you have to work the current job you're in, or is there another way to make income? And you do have to work at it, and you do have to find how to find that place. And if it doesn't happen that first year and you're still feeling strongly about homeschooling, I believe it will come together in its time when it's supposed to happen. Can you talk a little bit about what a co-op is?
Yeah, so a co-op would be like a 1 day a week, 2 days a week. It depends on how you are running it or how it's being run in your area. But for our particular one, we have it's not a drop-off program. There are drop-off programs where your kids are taught in kind of more like a school system method. But the way that ours works is that there's a number of different families involved. Each one of the parents teaches a class or two classes. We have a number of different classes set up. I think we've got about 50 kids in our one co-op, and it's kind of set into 4 different levels of classes. And so they come through, and the teachers come in, or the parents come in, and they teach a class every day. And they teach one of the classes.
Like each mom teaches for 1 hour a day.
Yes.
So it's really nice because the other 7 hours, the moms are hanging out with each other, they're talking, they're asking each other questions, they're praying together, they're laughing, they're making lunch for the kids to break and eat. So that's like the parent-led co-op model, 1 day a week. So even if you had to work full-time hours, you might be able to work your week out where, ours is on a Friday. So say the job that you work might be Monday to Thursday and Saturday, and then Fridays you're at co-op, Sundays you're at church and have a day of rest with your family. So that's the parent-led co-op. There's in our town there is a teacher co-op that you pay a bit, say $700 or $500 a kid. And teachers are hired to run the co-op. So it's a drop-off pickup program that is 1 day a week. And in both co-op scenarios, the parent-led one, there's very low cost, like less than $100 a year. But you are giving of your time to the other students and the other families in exchange for that environment. So there's those two co-op formats that if you're lucky, you'll have one of those in your area. But like Jilene said, if there's not a parent-led co-op, start one up, maybe like with 3 families. You might be able to teach, an hour and a half a day or hour and 45 a day, and the other moms do the same. And then you've got a 6-hour day, with 3 families, and everybody's having a great time and you're building community. So it's not that hard to do. And it seems like every year it's sort of which class do you want to teach?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's 2 moms on the same class, so the bar is very low. You get to tag team it with another mom, and so it feels like the pressure's off you a little bit, I guess.
Says the guy who doesn't actually teach the classes, right? But it's funny.
I taught a class.
He has stepped in. I taught art last year for the younger ones, and he did great.
And we did a Bible class.
Yeah, we did do a Bible class. But the cool thing is, like, it's your kids. It's your vision for what their education looks like. And so you really have the opportunity to create something that works for you and works for your family. So maybe that is just like, maybe if you are a single mom, maybe you have something worked out where it's like you have another single mom and you teach one day and she teaches the other day, and you can kind of work in between there, right? So there's so much flexibility that if you're just a little bit creative, if you have that vision, and I truly believe that if this is a desire that is in your heart, if you are praying to God to say, like, I want to homeschool my kids, make it happen. I honestly believe that that is a prayer that he will answer, because he sees your heart. He knows you love your child more than anybody in the entire world. And he wants to help you with that, right? So I where there's a will, there's a way. Be creative. don't ever say like, I can't do it, right? As soon as you're saying those things, that's what's going to happen. So just, yeah, just be creative, be flexible. There's ways out there, right? And don't do it alone. Tap into the resources that you guys have for Action for Canada. That's a great place to start. And yeah, we want to encourage you all.
Well, and
Yeah.
it made me think of, you know, how people don't have any trouble believing that, hey, maybe we should eat, you know, when it comes to our diet, maybe we should eat in a healthy way like they would have ate, you know, thousands of years ago, where it's very single ingredient based foods. And that seems like an easy concept to grasp. But when it comes to homeschooling, we're just educating our kids the way thousands of generations of humans would have educated their kids before the last couple hundred years of the modern education system. So in the same way, it's like the caveman diet or whatever they would call that type of eating. This
Ancestral
is,
education.
yeah, ancestral education. So
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really, really good. I also wanted to just put it out there too, if any of our listeners have a special needs child, many of the provinces are set up to have resources available to homeschool families to help with that. And I know in BC, where I live, if you enroll through, for example, HCOS or other schools, you can actually get provincial funding to help and get an educational assistant and then you can still have your child at home and you can still homeschool the other kids. There are ways to do that as well. And are you aware, Jilene, Duane, of any situations or any families who are tapping into those resources in
Oh
your
yeah,
circle?
I'm sure. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So it
Yeah.
is available too. And just to encourage those who, let's say your child is autistic or they've got some sort of learning disability, to ask questions when you contact your provincial groups. They will know what resources are available for you there. Well, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much. Before I let you go, I'm just going to share my screen here and show people how to find our site here, actionforcanada.com. That's our page, but how to find us, I'm just going to take you back to, if you go to the toolbar at the top where it says current issues, let's just say you're tapping into our website. Right down here, Homeschooling Revolution, go there. And right away, it takes you, find your provincial homeschool association. Go there. This is for those of you getting started. And every province is listed here. For example, Alberta, it is in alphabetical order. You want to go to ahiaonline.com. In BC, just open that up. Manitoba, they're all there. And you want to find out, get the answers to all your questions there. Well, let's hope my screen goes back. That's okay, it doesn't. I'm going to go back to the main page. Below that, you will see some webinars that we've done over the last couple of years on homeschooling and on parenting. So anything about homeschooling is in here. There's one we did on socialization and the statistics of how students fare as adults and as how they do academically in school. So there's some really great interviews in there with some experts. Down below is the yearly provincial homeschool conventions. This will be updated by early fall because most things don't start till, well, February is the first one in Saskatchewan, but most of them are in the spring. So that'll get updated for 2027. And do plan to go to one of those. And then legal resources. The Homeschool Legal Defense Association, I highly support them, and they are also the ones that are protecting your homeschool freedoms in Canada. They're the ones that I want to say at least 35 years ago went to bat for homeschooling in Canada and now paved the way for freedom in our provinces. So if you have any legal questions, any concerns, you want to reach out to hslda.ca. And they also offer homeschool support and how to get started. They offer advice, telephone, over the phone advice on how to get started. So they're another one. And yeah, we'll just come out of that screen. And I just want to thank Duane and Jilene for being on today. It's been absolutely fantastic. Your wisdom, your insight, your experience, very valuable. And so thank you again for being here today.
Thanks for having
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. I will pass this off to Heather now. And before we wrap up, Heather's got an introduction for next week's speaker.
We're looking forward to having Billy Crone join us next week. He's a pastor, author, sought-after speaker, and the leader of Get a Life Ministries. So be sure to join Tanya and Pastor Billy Crone on the Empower Hour next week. Back to you, Doris.
Thank you, Heather. And just to close, one of my favorite verses that I rely on, and you can apply this to homeschooling, Proverbs 3:5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will direct your path, and he will direct your path. And if you need to be encouraged and you need advice, please reach out to me at homeschooling@actionforcanada.ca. I'll be happy to reply to your email or give you a call back. And if you need any direction, just reach out to us as well. So thanks everyone for being here today, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
In times of financial uncertainty, safeguarding your assets is increasingly important. In response to ongoing inflation, economic challenges, and market instability, many Canadians are adopting the timeless strategy of investing in precious metals. Historically, gold and silver have held their value, safeguarding your assets against economic turmoil. Action for Canada is pleased to announce our partnership with Steve of Sun City Silver, providing valued members of A4C with expanded investment opportunities designed to help you achieve your financial goals. Steve is an ally of the Freedom Movement, and he's offering members of Action for Canada exclusive access to some of Canada's premier prices. By leveraging his connections with Silver Gold Bull, you can access competitive rates for securing your precious metals. Silver Gold Bull is a trusted Canadian leader, offering live pricing 24/7 and boasting nearly 400,000 five-star reviews on Trustpilot. For an order of $5,000, be sure to indicate you're an Action for Canada member and receive a complimentary 1967 silver dollar, courtesy of Sun City Silver. Expand your collection further by referring a new customer who places a similar order, and Steve will reward you with a special bonus thank you gift. Your purchase with Steve is a dual investment. You invest in your future while simultaneously supporting the Freedom Movement with a percentage of each sale benefiting Action for Canada. For more information, be sure to visit actionforcanada.com/purchasing-precious-metals/. Secure your assets. Protect your future. Support Action for Canada and the Freedom Movement. The information presented is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended to provide financial, legal, or tax advice, as we are not licensed financial advisors, accountants, or attorneys and cannot provide professional counsel. Be advised that the content and information provided does not create a client relationship. We recommend you consult with a qualified professional advisor before making any financial, legal, or tax decisions. Please note that Action for Canada is not responsible for an individual's financial outcome. Remember, your decisions are your own, and we recommend doing your own research before making any investment.
with virtuous hearts will pursue it. You have a virtuous heart if you are here today pursuing freedom and righteousness. And then verse 23 comes along with a promise. God says he will turn the sins of evil people back on them. He will destroy them for their sins. I take great comfort in that.